People always say that vision is important, but in this video, we're going to give you 5 tips on how to actually cast a vision well.
Hey, we are Ted and Lisa Snyder, and we are nonprofit consultants. We believe a better world needs healthier nonprofits. Now, let's talk about casting a vision. I feel like in the last few years, many years, vision's been important. In the last chunk here, there's been a huge, just vision cast. Have a problem? Just cast a vision. And it's become this thing that everyone knows, and yet no one knows how to do effectively. It's like if I just keep saying the vision over and over and over again, that's casting it, right? And I think of it kind of like as someone trying to fish. Like, you can cast the fishing thingy. Fishing rod.
Cast the rod, the line.
The line, thank you. I was like, there's the rod, the reel, but I don't think you cast those. You do this. You can cast, but that doesn't mean you're doing it as well as you could be. You might be casting in the wrong direction. You might be casting with the wrong type of, I don't want to say bait because we're not trying to bait people in nonprofit, but with the wrong thing, it's not going to attract the people that you want to come into your organization.
You might be like me when I go fishing and cast it into a tree, and now I'm stuck on a tree branch.
It's both of us. We're fun to go fishing with. But it's important to know, there is skill to do this, but oftentimes people just don't know what those skills are. So
we're going to give you 5 quick tips on how to do this. So first of all, have a clear and understandable vision. If your vision statement is really jumbled and has a lot of giant words in it, and it's hard to understand, or it says way too many things, or it sounds like you maybe tried to fit 5 vision statements into 1 vision statement, these are all big problems that you have to address. And if you're in a position to be able to adjust that vision statement to get it to a spot where it's easy to remember, easy to understand, and just kind of flows off the tongue, that's awesome. But you don't always have that luxury. A lot of people who are in nonprofits are not in a position to be able to adjust the vision statement on the fly like that, which makes sense. And it's probably a good thing. Otherwise, nonprofits would be changing their vision statements all the time and it would get confusing. Right. So it's important to have consistency in the vision statement. But if you can't change the vision statement in itself, you can always adjust how you explain it to people in a way that is clear and concise and understandable.
Right. Part of this is for the people that you're talking to. The more clear and understandable it is, the easier it is going to be for them to grab onto and for them to understand. If you're growing up volunteer leaders, then it makes it easier for them to communicate it as well. But a big piece of this is for your own sanity. If every time you're in a conversation thinking, I want to cast a vision right now, and you're trying to think through all of the different options for how you could explain this, it can almost get overwhelming or paralyze you it would paralyze me to a point where I'd be like, I have 8 different directions I can go because this seems like way too much, and I wouldn't be sure which one to hit or which one to go. I just hit my microphone. And so it can almost cause this analysis paralysis where it's important to do, so you want to do it correctly, but when there are too many options, it becomes too complicated. And so if you can get this down to something that's clear and understandable for you first and foremost, and then in a way that you can communicate to your people, that is the number one thing that you can do to make this better. It is hard to cast a vision that is a paragraph long with complex ideas that seems like your organization has 15 different missions. There needs to be something clear. And if you're in an organization that has a longer message, you can take out the part that is clear and understandable for the area that you are leading in particular and latch more strongly onto that, because then you're not getting rid of the org's mission or vision, but you're still bringing your umbrella under the overarching umbrella.
Which leads perfectly into the second tip. Relate it to the group that you're talking to.
Yeah.
You want to be always thinking about, who am I talking to right now? Is it a team of people who are front facing? Is it a team of people who work in the background that almost never get any credit for any of the successes? Are you talking to an individual who is thinking about making a donation? Are you talking to a large group at a big gala event or some kind of volunteer recruitment event or something like that? You want to be thinking about, how am I communicating this vision in a way that makes sense to the people that I'm talking to? Because a one-size-fits-all vision statement is important to have for an organization, but it's not going to hit the same way as if you communicate it in a way through stories, through examples, communicate it in a way that makes sense and hits the heart of the people that you're talking to, so they can really grab on and take ownership of that vision. Because we're not just trying to get people to buy into a vision. We're wanting people to say, hey, this is my vision for my life too. I'm taking a part of my life, my time, my money, my whatever, and I'm saying this vision is part of what I want to attach my life to.
Yeah. I mean, if you, just as an example here, if you are running an organization that's offering counseling services to youth, maybe, and you go into it, and every meeting with every person that you have is, this is our vision. We offer counseling services to youth, and it's counseling services to youth. And the counselors, we just can't believe that they do this because we're offering counseling services to youth. And you don't have a way to relate it to who you're talking to. And you're talking to someone who helps out on the admin side in the office for a few hours a week. They might walk away from hearing about the vision statement going, am I fulfilling the vision statement? I'm not the counselor. I'm not the one doing that work. I'm not the one helping the clients.
Am I
I'm
even
not the
necessary?
one. Yeah. Am I even needed here? If I wasn't here, could they use part of the time that they're spending investing in me, investing in someone who could actually do that work? And so it's really important that we understand what the vision is, but then can relate it in those conversations, whether it's to a group or even to an individual. Because sometimes we innately understand how all the pieces in the background of an organization fit together to make everything possible. But the people who are volunteering in those areas don't always see it. And so if we can't explain it to them in a way that they understand, a lot of times you'll find volunteers who slowly leave because they feel like they're taking up space that isn't actually helping or contributing, even if they're vitally important to the organization.
Number 3, hit the disc. What do we mean by that?
Hit the disc. We mean just understand the disc profile. We love using the disc profile because it's a way of talking about different personality types and kind of what drives different people. And it's very simple. We like a lot of different personality profiles and learning about ourselves, learning about other people. And there are so many out there.
Myers-Briggs, Arno profile, the Enneagram is a big one.
Yeah, there are so many, but we like the disc because it's so simple. There's just 4, not 16, not 9 with all of the wings, not Arno is like its own
beast.
Its own beast. But the disc has 4. And it's understanding that people are wired to really lean into certain areas, whether they're super results oriented, fun oriented, relationship oriented, or information oriented. And when we're talking about our vision and vision casting, you need to know that the people that you're talking to, if you have a group of 100 people, chances are there's a high percentage of each of these types of people, and a lot of them are a blend. Like, I'm very results oriented, but I also want the information. It's not quite as strong, but it's there.
And I'm very fun driven, but I also want results.
Yes. And so when we talk about vision, if we only talk about it from the angle that we want to hear about it, we actually end up cutting out segments of the population who feel like they can't even connect to our organization. So if I'm sitting up there as someone who likes information, just saying, here are the statistics, here are the numbers, here are the percentage points, and here are the decimal points. And I'm going everything into the millionth decimal place just so you can see how serious we are and that we know exactly where everything is going. Someone who just wants to have fun, or I don't mean that lightly, but they get excited by the fact that we're having fun and we're bringing joy into people's lives and we're going to do stuff together and it's going to be this great thing. They're going to listen to that and be like, this is not the organization for me. I don't understand this. I am not drawn in by this. And if I'm not drawn in by the vision, maybe the vision isn't for me. When really it's not the vision that's not for them. It's my communication style in that moment. It doesn't mean every time you vision cast, you have to use every aspect of the disc. But it's just keeping it in the back of your mind that people need these different ways of communicating and to be shown how these different aspects fit into what your organization is doing.
Yeah, it's really important because if you can figure out how to communicate in a way that resonates with those 4 different groups on a consistent basis, you're going to find that a lot of the organization that would have just connected with only your specific way that you like to communicate, um, there are a lot of gaps that are left in the organization when you don't have people who are results driven. We don't have some people who are fun driven. We don't have some people who are informationally driven, and you don't have some people who are relationally driven. If you're missing any one of those, there are big gaps in your organization that it really, really needs. So the more that you cast vision talking to all those groups, the more you're going to find that those holes are kind of filled in as well. So it's a really, really good technique to have overall. But specifically when you're casting a vision and showing people a picture of the future, you want them to say, hey, that sounds like something I want to get behind personally, because it's doing something that I care about.
And it's something that I want to get behind, and there's space for me to get behind it. Both highly important. Number 4, inspire people while being honest. Just tell the truth. Inspiration is huge when it comes to vision. We want to inspire people with where the organization is going, what we see it accomplishing, what goal we're trying to hit, the number of people we're trying to help. See, that's me. I want results and I want data. Also, we're going to have fun while we do it, I guess. But we want to inspire people and get them excited, but we don't want to use emotional inspiration as a way of manipulation. That's not the purpose of vision casting. Sometimes an organization will have an issue internally. It's like, just vision cast more. It's like, no, there's actually something behind the scenes that you can't just vision cast your way out of it in a way that's going to be healthy for the vision long term. In the short term, you might be able to vision cast and get people to set aside whatever the issue is to get through the next couple of weeks. But we have to be honest about what's going on within our organizations, and we can't just vision cast this massive inspiration if the honesty is something behind the scenes. Maybe it's the financial resources, the way that things are being run, the leadership that's in place. Maybe there's something contributing to the fact that when we look at the future, we know it's probably not going to happen, but it sounds great. It sounds inspirational. It's not going to help your organization. It's actually going to be a detriment to your general cause and actually impact other organizations as well.
I mean, if you are in the nonprofit space, which I'm assuming you probably are if you're still watching this video, you know that nonprofits in general over the years have gotten a bad rap from organizations that didn't do honesty well. Nonprofits, from like a governmental and legal standpoint, are built from the ground up to try to be as transparent as possible. And when you try to like put shade over something that's transparent, it does not go well.
Right.
It's very important to be honest about where your organization comes from, what you've been able to accomplish, and be ruthlessly honest about that. Don't sugarcoat stuff. Don't try to make it sound better than it was, and don't try to make it sound better than it will be. Just think about how can I honestly communicate this in a way that people are going to get excited about it? Like, if you just start with honesty and then, don't make it bland, but like actually communicate it in a way that's passionate and full of excitement, but be honest. Don't stretch the truth. Don't stretch, what's possible. Just be straightforward about it.
Yes. Please just be honest. Like, I feel like I repeat that far too often.
Yeah.
Number 5, tie every celebration back to the vision. People are going to duplicate whatever you celebrate. If you walk into a room and say, oh my gosh, this volunteer last weekend did these 5 things and I can't believe they did it and it's amazing and thank you so much. Naturally, other volunteers are going to look at that and say, I want that celebration. What are the 5 things? Tell me what you did to get that. I want that recognition. Mm-hmm. So what we need to understand with that, like that's how it works with volunteerism. But when we have a celebration that is not in line with whatever our vision is, volunteers look at it and say, I want to be a part of a celebration. Maybe I should go do more of that other thing that doesn't quite fit in with what the organization is trying to do. So an example, because this might sound a little bit, it'll just help. If you have an organization that is helping, let's go back to the counseling youth. You're counseling youth and you walk in after a staff meeting and you have some volunteers and you're like, I have a huge celebration. Last weekend, this like one of our counselors went out and they bought 4 bags of groceries and delivered them to a family that was on the verge of homelessness. And we were able to cut them a check for this amount of money. And now they're going to be able to keep their home, and we're getting them set up with resources. As a leader, like, I totally see how that fits within kind of the same umbrella. You're offering counseling to youth. I'm sure there are youth in that home that you're trying to help so that they're not having to go through a traumatic event in a different capacity. But from the volunteers' perspective, and possibly from the staff perspective, they're looking at that going, okay, so this last week we counseled X number of youth, but we're celebrating groceries being given. So should I be giving groceries now? Maybe we should do a food drive. Maybe we should do, and it causes this whole line of thinking that goes this other direction, because when something is celebrated, people naturally want to replicate it. So make sure that even if you do that, that you're saying it in a way where it's like, yes, we did that and it was great. But the reason that we're excited about that is because we know if we can stop this process, it's going to make it so that youth won't even have to come in for counseling. They're going to be in a better state. And so we're counseling people right now. And we're also, bring it in under the vision umbrella that you're constantly talking about. Otherwise, you're just going to confuse people.
The way that I like to think about it is you have a celebration that you know is going to get people excited and, give them a little extra motivation for a day of work or a day of volunteering, or maybe to donate some money, whatever it is. You have a celebration. You as the leader need to be good at drawing a line from that celebration to the vision.
Yeah.
Don't leave it as an empty, open question mark for them to have to draw the line in, because depending on their life and their story and all the stuff that they've experienced, they're going to draw a line to the vision and it might not make sense to them. And they might start thinking, we don't have direction. It's a good thing that we did that, sure, but it doesn't feel like we're going in one direction. We're just scattershot.
Yeah.
What's our strategy here? Especially results-driven people are thinking like that a lot. And information people really are looking at how does this relate to the vision statement? They're constantly trying to marry the two. And if you're not doing a good job of drawing that line clearly between a celebration and the vision, it could get messy real quick.
Yes.
So the reason that a lot of leaders in organizations are always thinking about how do I vision cast well is usually because vision casting leads to more resources, whether that's people volunteering or sharing their networks or donating. And we actually have a video specifically on how to increase donations, 7 tips for that. That video's up on the screen right now. If that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and click on that. We'll see you there.